Alright, so next in our list would be the message factory tool and the double filter tool, but there are a couple of parameters which I'm not 100% sure how they work exactly. So as I figured that out, I've texted the developer. He's a cool guy, he'll probably reply pretty soon and help me out. So in the meantime, we're gonna have a look at the last three tools. Yay, we made it to the end. We have the Monophonic tool, the toggle tool, and the CurveTransformer, which are very, very cool. So let's start with the Monophonic tool. I have here my iRig pads, and before I use this tool, I kind of want to show you how it works in GarageBand. So I just created a new project, and by default it's going to load this classic electric piano sound. So this is what it sounds like when I play a chord. Right? Perfectly capable of generating polyphonic sounds, but as I drag the Monophonic tool into our pipe, as you can see, the only parameter is the channel. So I'm sending information on channel 1. Maybe I want to limit this to 1, because maybe I might have some other controllers, maybe sending MIDI information on different channels. Maybe I just want to convert this one. So you can set that and check out what happens. Every new note I play mutes the previous note. So it does exactly what it says it does, right? Pretty self-explanatory, but a useful tool to have in your little toolkit here. So let's remove it and let's move on to the toggle tool. And this one actually has quite an interesting story behind it. This is my other MIDI controller, right? It's the Blue board, also by IK Multimedia. And I purchased this because my dream was to be able to use it as sort of a guitar pedal board, right? I wanted to be able to activate and deactivate virtual stomp boxes in GarageBand. The thing with this is that it works in this way. So every pad here sends out a certain MIDI CC. This one is CC 20, 21, 22, 23. But the way they work is as I press the pad, a value of 127 is sent. And as I release it, a value of 0 is sent. So basically, so long as you keep it pressed, the stomp box is active, and as you release your foot, the stomp box is turned off. And that's not what you want, right? On guitar stomp boxes, you want to press and release once, and the box is turned on. And then as you press and release again, it's turned off. So you want to turn this sort of temporary behavior into more of a toggle behavior. And so I was trying to find a way to make that happen, and I contacted the developer and asked him, hey, is there any tool here that can help me do that? And he was like, unfortunately, I don't have quite the tool, but maybe I can work on something. And to my surprise, a couple of days later, there was an update to MidiPipe, and the new version introduced the toggle tool. So he did this tool basically because I asked him to. And when you download MidiPipe, you get a folder, and there is a README text file as well with all the version updates and changes that have been made. And you will find my name actually next to the toggle tool, which I think is pretty cool. Just goes to show how cool of a guy the developer is. So I'm not going to use my Blue board to demonstrate this because I already have connected my iRig pads here, but I want to show you kind of how this works. So here's the A-list tool. Here are all the notes we played earlier. Let me clear the list. So I have this button here. I hope you can see it. There we go. This button right here. So as you can see, as I press it, it sends out CC64 and the value is 127, of course. As I release it, the value is now 0. So it works exactly like my iRig Blue board. So long as you keep it pressed, the effect is on, and as you release your hand or your foot, the effect gets turned off. We can change that behavior in 2 stages. The first stage is actually not the toggle tool. It's one of the tools that we had already available here, which is the control split tool. Basically, what we want to do is we want to make it so that the release value of 0 is ignored. So we can do that with the control split. So let's set this to the correct CC, which is 64, and then we can limit the values. Now, we need to set everything other than 0 as the minimum value. So 1 is perfect, any number goes. You can even just set this to 127. Basically what this does is it only passes through values that are within this range. So our release value of 0 clearly is not in this range, so it's going to get ignored. And as you can see, let me clear the list. I press once, we get 127 as expected, but as I release, we get nothing. So I can press again, 127, no release. Now that we have this situation, we can use the toggle tool. The toggle tool is going to make it so that pressing our button here is actually going to toggle between two separate values. It's not always going to be 127. So again, let me set this to control change. As you can see, this can work with many different types of MIDI messages. So it's very customizable to your own kind of situation. For me, I'm going to use control change. I'm going to set this to 64 and I'm going to tick the value box. So now it will alternate between 0 and 127. Let me show you what that looks like. So of course, release values are still going to be ignored thanks to the control split. So as I press once and release, we get 127, as was the case before. But the second time around, when I press and release, as you can see, I get 0. So now we have that stomp box kind of behavior, on and off, which is incredibly useful. And you can use this together with the AppleScript trigger tool we described in last week's video to actually turn pedals in GarageBand on and off. Let me show you just what that would look like. You have your pedal board, right? You can have different pedals and you can turn them off and on and off and on using MIDI information like that, which I think is pretty cool. There is a video on how to do that. You can also duplicate the original message and you can also set the channel of the transformed message to something different. As you can see, first time I press, here's my transformed message on channel 4 now. Here's my original message, same value of 127. The second time around, however, the toggle transformed message on channel 4 now has a value of 0, whereas the original is still 127. So yeah, that's the toggle tool. Pretty cool stuff. So next we have the CurveTransformer, which is also really cool. And the fact that it has been added at the bottom of this list means that it's a relatively recent update. It's the last tool that has been added. And if you check the release notes for MidiPipe, some other user requested this. So to demonstrate this, you can use various parameters, but I'm going to use velocity because I have some velocity sensitive pads here. So let me move this back. Let me actually deactivate GarageBand. We don't need to hear any other sounds. So the way this works is if I press my pad softly like this, the light is sort of green. And as you can see, the velocity was kind of low, 15. But if I press them a little harder, now I get orange, so a value of 75 for the note on velocity. And if I press them really hard, the color is red. The value is 123, which is almost the maximum value. And this is sort of a linear curve, right? It looks like this. So here is the intensity of you pressing the pads, and here is the actual velocity. So if I press them as an intensity of, I don't know, 10, the velocity output is going to be 10. So it's this point on the curve, right? Very linear. But the cool thing is we can mess with this curve, and we can both use these sort of drop-down menus, or we can just grab the points here and make our transformations. And I want to show you a pretty cool curve next. Something like this. So what this means is that as I press, again, let's say with an intensity of 10, this time around on the curve, we get a velocity that is way higher than 10. We get probably, I don't know, 100 or something. Let me show you that in the A-list tool. So I'm going to press the note real softly. Green light, as you can see, yet the velocity is 90. Right? You can see it even more clearly if I duplicate the original message and set the channel to something different like 5. Check this out. Right? So here's the original message on channel 1. It was velocity 29. But the converted message, the changed message on channel 5, has a velocity value of 110. So that's how we transformed our curve. We can also do the opposite, right? We can create a curve maybe like this. As you can see, even if I hit that note real hard, the velocity is going to be sort of low. Let's have a look at that. Right? So here's the original message on channel 1. It had a velocity of 38, but the converted message on channel 5 only has a velocity of 2. That's pretty cool. Another thing you could do is you could limit this transformation to only channel, let's say channel 2. Of course, this is transmitting on channel 1, so I could, hit my note real soft. And there is no transformation here, because we are only transforming the velocity on channel 2. If I set this back to 1, or if I deactivate the setting, and I do the same, this time around, as you can see, the velocity is much lower, because this curve is being applied. You can have all possible different curves. You can even have some weird stuff. You can even change the start and end points like that. So you can have some pretty wonky stuff. Very cool. So we made it to the end of the tools. All that's left now are the message factory and the double filter. As soon as I have any more information on those, I'm gonna put them in the last video. Thanks for sticking around. See you on the next one. Take care.